Good morning, dear friends and patriots. It is Monday, so that means we have to get ready for the week. I hope y'all had a great weekend. I always do that. Hope y'all ready to take on a new week. Sure everybody can hear me okay. I feel pretty good. I feel good today. Got a busy week planned, so that's positive. But y'all know I was not going to leave y'all. I really feel like these Mondays are stretching out further and further from each other. It feels like, I went from seeing y'all every day to only seeing you on Monday. I miss you. I decided to do shameless plugs every time. Make sure you get my new book. You can get it on euniceworld.com. 10 Things Your Mama Never Told You, But Mine Did. Unconventional wisdom to navigate a world that cares nothing about you or your feelings. And because I know no one cares about me or my feelings, these videos are never about my feelings. Just facts, just information. The goal of the information is for us all to be educated, empowered, and figured out how can we be part of a change. And the change we're looking for is equality. The change we're looking for is lessening the inequality, because sometimes equality might just seem like, wow, that's a lot to do to try to undo 400 years of foolishness. But it just takes us planting seeds and takes us staying focused and takes us doing the work that it's going to take to do. It's not going to be easy. And yes, we all get tired of fighting. We get tired of being soldiers. But I think we ultimately know that that's why we are positioned here at this moment, at this time. It's just to do the part we can do. We don't have to be mad at nobody else. We ain't got to argue with nobody else. We ain't got to fight with nobody else. Just stay focused on what it is we're trying to do. All right? Y'all feel good? I feel good. Y'all ready to get started? I call this, no, I'm not going back to making videos every day. I just saw that comment. No, that's not what I said. I just said I miss y'all in between making videos. We're going to stick to Mondays for now. I got other stuff I'm doing. But again, you can get that book on Amazon.com or euniceworld.com. All right, so I titled this video Shakespeare and whatever, because there's this Shakespeare quote that keeps coming in my mind. And yes, I just have random Shakespeare quotes that pop up in my mind because I'm cultured and worldly and well-read, all them things Black women ain't supposed to be. But it's a line, it's a pretty famous line from a famous speech in Macbeth, after Lady Macbeth dies. And it starts with like tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in his petty pace from day to day. Okay, but the whole point is at the end, he says, life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And I feel like that's where we are right now. We're hearing a lot of sound and fury, but it's signifying what? Today is a big day because supposedly, allegedly, possibly the Washington Redskins are changing their names from the offensive Redskins. Now, the people who fight things like that obviously aren't Native Americans and obviously don't have a sensitivity or never had an experience with being marginalized as a people. And so that's why they would fight such an idea. Yes, your granddaddy was a big Washington fan. And yes, you got your jersey from when you were 5 years old. It's sound and fury signifying nothing. Amen. And that's what most of this country has been based on. Most of the history of the country is a tale told by an idiot. And it has been a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. The Confederacy has less of a heritage than outcast. Amen. ATLians, please catch it. So today, I wanted to talk to you about some things that went on back then, going on right now, and what you can do to be empowered. And that's the goal of these videos, just to educate us, to empower us. When I say us, I mean Black people. When I say us, I mean white people. When I say us, I mean anybody who's watching this video. I want you to watch it. I love reading your comments. I do read all the comments. I try not to engage too much while I'm doing the video so I can keep it moving. And also when I upload these to YouTube, you can't see the comments. So I don't want people to feel lost by like us having these private conversations online. But also I want you to know that not only am I reading your comments, I am receiving your feedback, your input, and also knowing that we are affecting a change by having these conversations, the difficult conversations that we tend to not want to have. Why are we having these conversations now? Why is everything happening now? We ain't got nothing else to do. We've always been distracted by the rest of the world to really just fix our world. And so I think that is the blessing of a tragedy, if you can find one. That has been the silver lining is, yes, we are having even more conversations and battles and chaos and clashes, but sometimes you have to crash into each other in order to feel something. And I think we're making a difference. I do. All right, so I've talked to y'all before in a previous video about eminent domain. When I was talking about eminent domain previously, I specifically was talking about Seneca Village. Seneca Village is in New York. It was an African-American community that had stores and churches and schools. And then the white folks didn't appreciate these black folks living so well. And so they practiced and exercised eminent domain, meaning we can just come take your land because we said we could. And now that land is Central Park in New York. And so what's interesting is about eminent domain and when it's exercised, we have to look back historically about who it is exercised against and why. And so the goal for most people in this world is just to build something, build wealth, build a life, build a family, right? And have something to leave to your family. But if every time you build something, somebody comes and burns it down and murders your family, then it just makes it a little bit harder. And again, we talked about an apple tree. You plant an apple tree 400 years ago, you're still going to get apples from that tree. And so when we talk about things from 1920, 1860, 2005, 2020, it's all just apples. It's just apples. It's never going to change until we plant some new fruit. So when I talk about eminent domain, it's because I'm talking about wealthy communities that black folks had. And when white folks have wealthy communities, they get to pass that wealth along to their families, and that's called generational wealth. And their families and their descendants are starting over every time with a knee on their neck. And so that's the difference between rich and wealthy. A lot of times people will tell you, oh, I know there's plenty of rich black people. And they probably potentially are the first ones of their family. And hopefully they'll have something to leave to their children. But the difference between being rich, that's having a lot of money, being able to afford expensive things. Wealth is sustainable. Wealth usually is multiple streams, and wealth is when you don't worry about money. You got money, your great-great-grandkids got money, your great-great-great-great-great-grandkids got money, and you had money before you were born. And that's just never really the situation for black folks, because when we start doing the things to build wealth in this country, we were murdered and those things were taken from us. And so again, the apple tree. So I want to talk to you a little bit about economics in America and where we stand economically, because obviously money is power. The people who have the money are the people who are in power. So if black people don't have the money, yeah, that was an easy math problem. I'm going to make the rest of them a little bit harder than that. African Americans make up 17% of the population in America. So if you say 17% of the population, however, all of the numbers that we're talking about poverty rates or police brutality, those numbers are so much higher, obviously, than 17%. It's 3 times that of our white counterparts, but we only make up 17%. And that's crazy, because that's why we say disproportionately. We know things going to happen. We know everything is not a generalization like all or none, but if you look at the number of people that are being affected by a thing, at some point you got to look at the thing and not just look at the people, because the people are the ones that are being affected disproportionately by a thing. That's when I started talking about police brutality and redlining and systemic racism and all that stuff. You know, the fun stuff we talk about on these videos. So when we talk about household median incomes, white people's household median incomes is much higher than black folks' median household incomes. White folks, actually, in my research, I found don't even have the highest median income in America. Asians do, at about $87,000 a year. White people's median household income is about $70,000. Black folks, $41,000. And when we say household incomes, we're not talking about individuals, because that number is even worse for individuals depending on what color you might be. Now, if you're thinking about money spends, hey, as long as you got money, I want you to support my business because I need your money in order to sustain. It's one of those things where, yeah, money does matter, but color does matter too. And more so than just the color of your money, you're not going to have as much money if you are a certain color. Now, I feel like today's lesson is really just explaining itself. I don't think we're going too hard in this. I want to talk about specifically black men and the economic situation of black men in America. There's several reasons why black men are having trouble building wealth. And then you think of people building wealth and having families and passing along that generational wealth. It just don't really happen for black men like that for several reasons. You have education inequalities. You have the effect of the neighborhoods they grow up in. You have workplace discrimination. Once they do get a job, they have lower access / no access to credit, and also high rates of incarceration. So when you're looking for a black man to build wealth, you got about 1,000 things stacked up against this black man when he was born that's going to prevent him from building wealth. Well, let's say he gets married. Well, first of all, black folks ain't even getting married like that. Black women don't get married at the rate that the white women get married. And if you marry a black person as a black woman, that's still going to make sure your household median income is lower because you earn lower as a black woman. Yeah, that's how that works. As far as poverty rates, about half of black people are born into the bottom fifth of income distribution. About half. And that's compared to 1 in 10 whites. This is called an apple tree. So when you see people who don't have a lot of great options right now, don't exercise what you feel is good sense, it's a reason why those things. Black people are making 59 cents to every white person's dollar. This is called systemic racism, implicit bias. This is the inequality we talk about. And so we don't get as upset when women want equal rights and equality, and we talk about women getting paid what men get paid. But it's some reason when black folks say, well, why if we do the same job, let alone do the same job better, now, not alone I should be the supervisor. Everybody want to get mad and say, oh, all the black folks want special treatments. Black Lives Matter means they think they better than whites. And all the ridiculousness of these anti-campaigns. Fight for something. If you're going to fight for anything, fight for something. Just stop fighting against folks that's fighting for something. So like the All Lives Matter, we've gone over this before. It's just an anti-black campaign. Black folks are fighting for a change in police reform, police brutality, inequalities, a lot of different things that black folks are fighting for. But when you show up and say all lives matter, what are you fighting for? Okay, I think we said in an early video, don't say that no more. Stop saying that. Makes me mad. So when we talk about black wealth, it's like, how do you build wealth? A lot of times people say, hey, buy a house. That's how you build wealth in America. Start a business, all those things. And when you look at our ancestors and the people that came before us, and I mean the people who, some of them were freed slaves. Some of them were children of freed slaves. Some of them were children of runaway slaves. Some of them were slaves themselves. And when they got into a situation where they could just figure out just a little bit better of how to do and how to be, and they start building something and building communities and helping each other, man, the white folks had a problem with it and they just burn it down. I'm going to tell you about this one area where black wealth was potentially being built in California, Manhattan Beach, California. There was a gentleman there who owned a lot of beachfront property. But, black folks weren't allowed to go to the beach because that's what the white folks said. And so this particular man sold a parcel of beach property to this black couple. And this black couple, the Bruces, they decided to build basically a resort for black folks to be able to come and have a good time and enjoy the beach. And not only did they have that area, Bruce's Beach, where the black folks could come and hang out and vacation and have their little stretch of land there. The gentleman that sold the Bruces this property also allowed black people to use his pier. So he was a little bit advanced, in his time. And they built this in 1912, specifically owned and operated and for African Americans. So let's think about this. In 1912, black folks was building beach communities for black people to enjoy. And think about it. They probably building it, and so our children are going to run it, and their children, just like the white folks have those beachfront properties and resorts and family owned and operated, all those things. Black folks said, yeah, we can do that too. Well, the white folks said, no, you're not going to be able to do that. So guess what the white folks did? Now, I know y'all know the answer because I already said it today, but I've said it before. What happened to Bruce's Beach? What happened? Yep, eminent domain. White folks came and said, no, we taking this. And they ran the black folks out of town, harassed them. The KKK came in 1920s and attacked the whole resort. And then the city said, yeah, we're going to exercise eminent domain over this part of town. And yeah, we're going to build a park. And it took these folks' land, then ran them out of town. And guess what? Guess what? What happened? Yeah, that land sat vacant for decades. They didn't start trying to do nothing with that land. I told you they were attacked by the KKK in 1920. They didn't start doing nothing with that land until 1960 something. 40 years just sitting there, unused, abandoned, when it was a thriving community that was being loved and built and for specific people, because we weren't allowed to go other places and welcomed other places. And But that's just what they do now. In 2007, they did put up a plaque on that stretch of land that white folks are getting rich off of today. It's never a thought of when they put a plaque up that says, man, we sure did wrong back then, and we'll put up a plaque in 2007 recognizing the Bruces and that they own this land and that we snatched it and took it, but never a thought of, let's find the Bruces' descendants, and maybe we need to give them this land back and so they can build this wealth that their parents and grandparents started. Never a thought. That would be one way. Reparations is such a bad word. But anyway, so if you heard of Martha's Vineyard, you have probably seen the movie, Black Folks, The Inkwell. It's in the Oak Bluff community in Martha's Vineyard, another very upscale area. Y'all hear folks go vacationing in Martha's Vineyard. Well, you know what? That was another area of beachfront property that Black folks were able to own back in the day. And the beautiful thing about Martha's Vineyard is that several Black folks their descendants still own a lot of that beachfront property. So if we are ever let off punishment, we're going to Martha's Vineyard. We're going to kick it, and we're going to go to a Black resort that is owned and operated and is family operated and contribute to that particular generational wealth. Now, there was a movie called The Inkwell. Most areas that allowed Black people, I hate using the term allowed Black people, but most areas where Black people frequented the beach. What? Yeah, that's why it's called the Inkwell, because it's Black folks in the water. That's what the white folks called the areas of the beach that the Black folks was in. The Inkwell. So in Martha's Vineyard, they kind of just took it and said, yes, this is the Inkwell and give us our money. But yes, them white folks said, Black folks in the waters, they making ink. The ink. Well. But anyway, let's start planning our trip now to go to Martha's Vineyard, y'all. Okay, so the reason why I talk about gentrification and eminent domain and it's several. It's too many. We've talked about Black Wall Street. We've talked about Wilmington, North Carolina. We've talked about a lot of places, but there's no way for me to actually tell you every place that Black people started building wealth that the white people had a problem with it and came and tore it down, burned it down, and killed the people. There's no way for me to tell you all that in the amount of time I want to take to talk to you today. But the reason why I remind you and tell you about it, I try to tell you about a different neighborhood or a different situation where it happened because it was all over the country. A lot of times when we think about the KKK, we think about Alabama, we think about Birmingham, we think about Mississippi, we think about the South. But this is what this country was built on. If I want it, I will take it. If you are white. Yet and still, even though the white folks take all the folk stuff, and I mean, when I say folk stuff, y'all know I'm talking initially about the Native Americans, the people whose land, all this land that we ain't got no business on. Amen. So yes, if today is the day that Washington takes Redskins off their name, then you think today? Why now? Why do y'all think now? Why is everybody trying to put out brown Band-Aids now? Because they don't want their stuff burned up. And they also realize that it's been wrong from the beginning. Now, they didn't just realize it's been wrong. They're just getting called out on it. It's getting harder to explain it. Because and that's the beauty of breaking down systemic and institutional racism, is once one person says it's not okay, it's harder for the person next to them to say that it is okay. But if all y'all say it's okay, then it's okay. That's been America. What? We building, we living. What y'all talking about? We ain't got no problem. Everybody been cool. And the people who were born with the privilege and have the advantage, there ain't nothing to talk about. We doing good. We winning. I talk about gentrification. I talk about eminent domain because obviously Breonna Taylor's murderers still have not been arrested in Louisville, Kentucky. And now the family has amended the lawsuit they had because no one's been arrested. And the question is why? This woman, 26-year-old woman, this EMT was murdered in her own home. She was shot 8 times by police who executed a no-knock warrant. I think it was the 5th no-knock warrant they had executed on this home. Well, the family has filed an additional lawsuit saying they believe that they killed, and when I say they killed Breonna Taylor accidentally on purpose. Because it wasn't so much that they were looking for this drug dealer who they already had in custody who didn't even live in that house. It was about that house is a holdout for a redevelopment that the city wants to make. They didn't ran everybody else out. So they just been harassing these folks to get them out of their homes. And so the house that Breonna Taylor was murdered in was the last house standing on that street, blocking this redevelopment. Amen. Eminent domain. That might explain why you're not getting the mayor to really rah for some arrest and some accountability. Why? Well, because the mayor really wants this development to happen. He really wants that to happen during his term. He wants this particular development to be what? His legacy. Yes. Yes. It's the same thing, y'all. It's the same thing. They will kill you and take your stuff because they want it. Native Americans, what? Yeah, they said, yeah, they would kill you and take your stuff. Yeah, ancestors, y'all had some stuff. Well, would the white folks kill you? Yes, they will. And then today, they can execute a no-knock warrant to arrest a person they already have in custody that does not live there and shoot you 8 times and nobody be arrested. And nobody pushing for no arrest. Because quite possibly, this has been a bigger plan. Now, again, this is part of the family's amended lawsuit. Y'all go online, read it for yourselves. You can go to Mayor Fisher's website where he talks about how excited he is about redeveloping this road. It's called Elliott Avenue. Now, I ain't even want to say that, but ain't that something? And that he wants this to be his legacy during his tenure. It's already lagged in development for 6 years. He gonna get this done. We got to get them out this house. Yes, gentrification, eminent domain. It's what they do. They learn from their parents and they pop up. And they pop up. And you know how they like to talk about pop up that fought in the war? But they don't like to talk about pop up that fought in the war and came back home and still ain't had no rights and still couldn't vote. And their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, us still getting murdered in our houses like a few minutes ago so they can build something nice and they can put their name on the building and that be their heritage and legacy. Remember that time? Just checking. They passed Breonna's law, but they ain't arrested the people that murdered Breonna. So I just think you can't have Breonna's law if the law was broken. What do we do when people break the law? Oh, only if they black, only if it's a minor offense, which dates back also to the 1800s, because we have to keep them incarcerated so we can keep getting this free and cheap labor. But they lazy. Why would we have all the black people in jail? Why would we enslave black people? Because we built the joint for free. They have to create these narratives so you feel less about yourself, so they believe more about themselves. And let's just tell the truth and then just figure it out. We just want to be left alone, as James Baldwin would say. We want to be left alone and be allowed to mature as people, as Americans in this country. We don't need your supervision. We don't need your permission. Just leave us alone. If we walking down the street, don't ask me my name. Don't ask me my address. It don't matter where I belong. I belong right where you see me at. Amen. Don't pull me over talking about I was going 65 and a 70 and that seems suspicious. Don't talk to me about no busted tail lights or no expired tags. Please don't talk to me about that, because then when you ask to see my license and registration and I reach for it because I do have it, you got to shoot me. Oh, Philando Castile. That was 4 years ago, y'all. The baby was in the car. Ask for the license and registration. Let me get it. Let me shoot you first. What happened? Yeah, that's what happened. So anyway, I want you to look to end today's conversation with what can we do? It's about action items. It's about being empowered. A lot of times, a lot of folks don't realize the power of the vote. And I know sometimes you get discouraged when you start learning about electoral colleges and does your vote count and they're going to vote for a certain person and what, blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you, you got the 3 branches of government. The presidential election is the executive branch, and most people get all hyped up about the major election, the presidential election. But the president don't make no laws, and we need new laws, and we need to take old laws off the books. So we got to dial in and really start voting for these Congress people and these senators and these House of Representatives, these people that actually make laws. They are in the legislative branch of government, and just situationally or conditionally we condition to vote for the president. That's the big one, right? But no, y'all, he's signing bills that have been introduced into law by the congressmen and the senators and the people that we need to start paying more attention to. Those are the people. First of all, let me say this. This is actually going to be an opinion. And I don't offer opinions, but I'm going to offer an opinion. I'm going to start right here. Everybody right now that's in Washington is too old. I said it. This is not me being ageist, but they're all 70-plus-year-old people in Washington. I think they should just be enjoying the rest of their life somewhere else. We need some young people with some new ideas and fresh ideas who can actually represent their constituents. Because when I vote for someone in Birmingham, Alabama, there's nothing that makes me more upset than when I see that person holding hands and singing whatever song that party is singing, and it ain't got nothing to do for me or the benefit of my life here, where I voted for them at, the constituency, my street, what they did for me. Oh, but they do. Oh, and then party lines, and oh, and our team, and oh, and what did y'all do? What? We got to get back to that. The whole system is broken. The entire system is broken. But if we're going to work within this system, we got to start getting people in these seats that are going to make laws. You may have had a family member that has been unjustly prosecuted. You may have a family member that's been murdered. You may be working through this poverty line situation. The poverty line is the part in your hair. You've been looking up at the poverty line your entire life. We got to start having these conversations, and then we have to have people that will have those conversations on our behalf in Washington. Okay, we got to get some young folks out there to start paying attention to what we do have control over. We do have an election tomorrow in Alabama. It's a runoff, and then we also have a statewide election for a certain party. But y'all, we gotta use our power. Don't just vote in November for the president. You got to be voting all along, because those are the people that when you vote for them or you get them into office, you need to then say, hey, I need to talk to you about my situation. And that's how they invite these random people. If you ever watch C-SPAN or watch some of those congressional hearings before they were all about the administration, they used to be about people, regular people. And you would see these regular people out there saying, wow, I'm having a bad time. And that congressperson or that senator has met this constituent somewhere and says, you know what, I'd like you to come to Washington and talk to my colleagues. And it was a recent situation. A woman in Lowndes County, Alabama, Black woman. She lived in a trailer that had mold and animals, possums, raising her 2 children. And she was introduced to several politicians, Bernie Sanders included. And she was invited to Washington to talk about her despair and her horrible conditions. And, they applauded her. She was soft-spoken. She wasn't trying to be no politician, but she just wanted them to see a face of somebody who is trying to get out of a bad situation and can't get out of the bad situation because the situation is getting worse. She also has some health issues, some underlying health issues, among those diabetes and whatnot. I say all that. I just read about her this week, and she died last week from COVID-19. But I have a problem with all of these rich, wonderful people who applauded her for speaking up, and one of them could have just bought her a nicer trailer. And then we can work on the rest of the neighborhood another day. But instead of flying this particular Black woman in Washington to be your guest, and you sending her home to a molded trailer with possums in it, amen, just say, but you know what? Hey, we can go ahead and buy her a trailer. Okay. Just do what you can, people. Let's stop looking for somebody else to do it. This is a little bit of my part. Just a little bit. I got more parts coming and been in works, but just do your part. Stay empowered. Stay excited. Know that you do have power within yourself, within your home, within everybody you touch and reach. I'm going to try to make these videos shorter moving forward, especially if I'm going to start doing them every day. I'm playing. I ain't going to start doing them every day. I got other stuff to do. I appreciate y'all watching these videos. I appreciate you commenting, and I really, really appreciate you sharing them. I get these notifications when people share the videos or like the videos or comment. So all day, like I said, I can see that the seeds are being planted, and it's because of y'all. So I appreciate y'all doing that. And I also get all these inboxes from people who, a lot of white people who say, you know what, I never knew that, or I never understood that. I actually got, I want to share this message I got from a teacher, a white woman teacher. And again, the only reason I'm telling y'all people's races, because I know races, not racist, they're telling you they're racial background makeup, is because I want you to know that it affects us all. If some of us don't figure it out, it ain't gonna be all right for nobody. And that's for the Black folks and the white folks. Black folks, if we don't figure out what we got to do in our communities, ain't none of us gonna be okay. White folks, if y'all don't figure out what y'all can do better in your communities, only you can end racism. But anyway, this white school teacher reached out to me to make a comment on a previous video where I was talking about how a lot of times our young Black men specifically, but Black people in general, but our young Black men, they walk into the role that was written before they were born, criminal, thug. And that's what they see, and so that's what they go become. And she reached out to me because she said that as a school teacher, she had a young student who had just been deemed a problem child from year to year to year. They were just deemed, he was deemed a problem child. And she said one day she had an exercise, and this young man won that exercise. And she said it changed his entire flow. because he felt proud. He felt good. He was more polite and mannerable to the teacher. He wanted to be involved because he saw that he could succeed. Just that one time he saw that he could succeed, and it changed how he felt about himself. He was going home to an abusive home, but when he came to school, he dialed in a different way because it mattered. So it's really about positive reinforcement, positive representation, and loving ourselves. It's hard to love yourself when everybody hates you. It's hard to love yourself when your options are kill or be killed. It was created that way. It is an apple tree of America. But we can plant some new fruit. So I love y'all for it. All right, it's just Monday. That means we got a whole week to be great. Love y'all so much. Again, the first video I said love y'all. I didn't mean it about most of y'all, but we getting there. I love more of y'all. And that's still with an asterisk on a certain day of the week. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye.